Before I get on to this Smackdown review, I just want to take a minute or so of your time just to tell you about something that I would like you guys to check out and support. As you know, I've been very, very supportive in the past of a tag team on the independent scene called D-Line. I've been a fan of these guys ever since I saw them on ROH TV, and I've been a fan of them now for just over a year now. And they're now doing a podcast which basically talks about wrestling and sports and other such thing. And I will link this in the description box below. All you have to do is sign up to the website and subscribe. You can also, download it on iTunes as well. I believe you can phone into the show as well, I believe. But they've had Eddie Kingston on their show, and they've most recently had Rhett Titus on their show. So I would recommend you guys go check this out. And you never know, further down the line, yours truly may just be a guest on the show at some point, but the D-Line podcast will be linked in the description box below. Please go check it out. It's a good listen, trust me. Going into this Smackdown, I was really in a very sort of take it or leave it mood, and if I really wasn't interested in something, I was just going to skip it, really, kind of like I guess your average casual fan would do, maybe, I guess. So it's a good job WWE opened the show with someone who I did actually care about, and that is Daniel Bryan, who on Raw seemingly became the new face of the WWE after beating Randy Orton in the main event and then getting chokeslammed by Kane. And you know why I'm not saying yes, yes, yes in any of this stuff I'm doing here? It's because we all know that Daniel Bryan is never, ever, ever going to be the face of the company, and that Batista is going to steal that spot away, even though he's been away from the WWE for 4 damn years, damn it. But this opening segment really played on Daniel Bryan and Kane's history, and if they're going to go there with Daniel Bryan and Kane and eventually lead that to a Triple H match, this is a good way to do it. I mean, you're playing on the history here, which WWE never usually seem to do when it comes to feuds. And you have Daniel Bryan calling him out, and Daniel Bryan saying he wants the old Kane back, and Kane saying he's happy being this corporate guy and he's choosing money over friends, etc. And then he books Cesaro versus Bryan, which my guess would have got the IWC jizzing their pants. So on Raw this week, they're still continuing to tease tension between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and the Shield members, etc., with Seth Rollins being kind of like the moderator, like separating them apart, etc. So they're still doing a good job in sort of slow building to the point where they're going to eventually launch Roman Reigns off as a monster babyface. As for this week's Smackdown, you had Ziggler and Kofi, which I named the Job Squad, versus Ambrose and Reigns. I must admit, I wasn't really too interested in the match, but one thing that did catch my ear is how much I believe Seth Rollins has improved on the mic. When he was in NXT, I really didn't think this guy was all that on the mic. I really didn't think this guy had much to offer on the mic, but doing the headsets and being on the mic, etc. lately, he's handling himself pretty well, and I think he's actually doing a good job improving his mic skills, which is one of the things he desperately needed to improve if he was ever going to be some kind of star for the WWE down the line. So that's a good sign there. As for the match itself, well, didn't really watch too much of the beginning, but Ziggler, god damn it, Ziggler sold that spear very well. And it looks like also Roman Reigns is adding some new moves to his repertoire, maybe moves that they'll use on him when he eventually does become babyface, as the Superman Punch, and some of the moves he did in this match seem very much like babyface moves from where I'm looking. And you have Reigns basically spearing Ziggler, which he sold incredibly well, by the way. And he basically just says to Ambrose, right, I've done the work, now you can pin him. And it kind of teases a little bit more tension between the two. So that was interesting. And it's good. And also then you had the Wyatt family promo on the Titantron afterwards, and with Bray Wyatt cutting his usual stick. And I thought it was also good here, speaking of mic work, I think it was also good that Luke Harper is actually getting some mic time now in these promos, because I do believe that, Luke Harper, aka Brody Lee, is another guy that they could launch off the Wyatt family if they ever separate the Wyatt family. So it's good that he's actually getting some mic time in there. I thought that was pretty good of WWE, and I hope they continue doing that and building that up bit by bit. So we have this really odd segment, which I'm going to call the Antonio Cesaro show. We have basically Cesaro, Zeb Coulter, and Jack Swagger backstage, and Cesaro was kind of holding a random mic, and he was speaking in foreign language or something. And I'm thinking, so Zeb Coulter is against foreigners in the US, but he's perfectly fine with Cesaro not speaking American. That's a bit weird. And why does it seem like in this segment they're teasing a Jack Swagger face turn, when really, based on crowd reaction, you would say it should probably be the other way around? I mean, Cesaro is the one with the crowd-pleasing swing, etc. And just the way this segment went, Jack Swagger he came in and he just seemed really awkward. And the segment, in my opinion, came across as very awkward. Like the kind of thing you would just say, that was definitely acted. You know, and when you get segments like that, it's kind of like, well, we need to induce a little bit of realism in there. Jack Swagger just comes in and is like, you know, just like, he looks like an extra in a cartoon sometimes when he's in segments like this. He just doesn't seem to know what the fuck to do. So Titus O'Neil has decided to revolutionize the way that interviewing works by actually doing his own interviews on the people that should be interviewing him. And this week it was Renee Young. And I thought this was actually kind of funny. You know, some of the stuff he was saying about Darren Young, you know, Mr. No Days Off, but for the last 991 days or something, he's, you know, just not been performing. I thought these insults were kind of funny. And, you know, I was really kind of entertained by Titus O'Neil. And you have Darren Young come in and attack Titus O'Neil, you know, continuing on their inevitable feud, which Titus O'Neil will go over in. And, you know, part of me, after watching this, kind of wishes that Titus O'Neil stayed babyface, because I was really entertained by this segment. I really was. I think the guy does have charisma on his day. I mean, we saw how good he was working the commentary that time he was on Raw. It was sometime last year, I believe. But, you know, after seeing this, part of me wishes Titus O'Neil would have stayed babyface. You know, every time I see Del Rio talking about Batista and saying he's going to crush him and he's going to beat him, I just can't help but laugh. I'm sorry. It's just, he thinks he has a chance against Batista, and he's trying to be all serious and stuff, like, I'm going to crush Batista. But all I can do is laugh, because Batista would eat this guy for breakfast, quite literally. And it's a shame, really, because the Del Rio character was once a massive character in the WWE. Could you ever buy him against a Batista, though? Probably not. And news apparently is that apparently at the end of his contract, Del Rio is going to walk away from the WWE. You know, the WWE now aren't doing too much with Del Rio. It's not like CM Punk, where they invested so much in him, putting matches against Brock Lesnar, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, you know, 400-odd day title reign, and, you know, big matches at WrestleManias, big matches at SummerSlams, big matches at Royal Rumble against The Rock, main eventing a lot of pay-per-views. It's not like they put that much investment in Alberto Del Rio, so I can kind of understand why at about 36 years old, he might want to walk away and maybe try and make a name for himself back again in Mexico. When I see two guys like Antonio Cesaro and Daniel Bryan, I think it's very obvious that the wrestling in the ring has never been a problem with these two. They are, in fact, two incredibly gifted wrestlers, probably two of the best in the company. And to me, it was always a lack of gimmick that haunted them. But we're seeing one guy now in Daniel Bryan who's got a gimmick going and is incredibly over. And we see what that's done for his popularity and where he is on the card. Whereas you look at a guy like Antonio Cesaro, who's probably equally as good, if not better than Daniel Bryan in the ring. His gimmick is just kind of and he's not really incredibly over. I mean, the We the People chants are kind of getting over. He probably should be a babyface by now, but it's basically his gimmick is still kind of getting there, which is why he's like on the low mid card right now. Just you can really see the difference, you know, in the popularity between these two, with, you know, how good the gimmick is for a guy like Daniel Bryan and how much the gimmick is kind of bringing a guy down like Antonio Cesaro. Even though I'm hoping that, you know, being in Elimination Chamber, they might actually do something and maybe take this character a little bit more seriously. Especially now they're teasing tension between Cesaro and Swagger. You know, as for Antonio Cesaro versus Daniel Bryan, the match, I know the IWC were probably jizzing over all the great spots in this match. But I will say this, even though this might sound quite picky, I thought this was a pretty good match. But there were times when I did question the selling and it kind of got into ROH range, but that's just me nitpicking there. The match wasn't really very relevant here, which may disappoint a lot of you YWC wrestling junkies. But, you know, you have Kane coming out, which leads to Cesaro attacking Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan won the match, by the way, as he definitely should. And then Kane chokeslams Daniel Bryan. And you can see the similarities that they're doing here between this and what they were doing with CM Punk before he left, i.e. at the Royal Rumble with Kane, etc. They're having Daniel Bryan getting attacked by Kane. They had CM Punk being attacked by Kane. CM Punk was supposed to be in a storyline with Triple H. It looks like now Daniel Bryan, it seems like they're doing the same booking with him and putting him in CM Punk's spot going into WrestleMania, where they're probably going to have him go against Triple H. Will he win or not? That's a story for another video. And it looks like at some point down the line, they're going to do Daniel Bryan versus Kane, probably at Elimination Chamber. You know, so you've got this feud going forward now. Like I said, I imagine all this is leading to Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania, and Daniel Bryan is basically getting CM Punk's spot on the WrestleMania card. Speaking of CM Punk, I just want to address something. There were many fans chanting for CM Punk on Raw, and it seemed like a lot of the fans were trying to hijack the show. Now, I've seen a lot of people's opinions on this, and some say, give the crowd their freedom of speech, etc. You know, some people have bashed them for doing it. I must admit, even though I understand why fans love Punk and they want to see him back and they want to see him back in the WWE and they feel he may have been unfairly treated by WWE, does matches with Brock Lesnar, The Rock, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, multiple matches with John Cena, a long-ass title reign, you know, etc., does that really say that the WWE wasn't treating you right? I'm just saying. And you see these fans that are chanting for CM Punk, and the guy quit on WWE and therefore quit on you. So why the hell are you hijacking matches to chant for a guy that isn't even there? Now, I kind of agree with Sleg Daddy on this one. You know, chant for someone that is still in the WWE and help them get over a little bit. Stop chanting for a guy that essentially walked out on the company and therefore walked out on you. He may as well have just spat in your faces and you may have just caught it in your mouth and swallowed it. As I was watching Sheamus versus Ryback, when I looked at this match, all I could really think of is how this could have been such a big match at a pay-per-view if Ryback hadn't have lost all his steam and been turned heel and jobbed out to Cena and then pretty much gone on the downhill slope from there. You know, dare I say, it could have maybe have even been a match at WrestleMania. You know, if Ryback hadn't lost all his steam. And now it's just a random-ass match on Smackdown. You know, it just kind of sums up a lot. I mean, Sheamus is returning from that Royal and he got the victory. He's in Elimination Chamber, so he should have got the victory here. But you just look at Ryback. It's like, this guy was up here, and now he's just down here. And it's just, you look at that, it's like, this is why WWE can't make stars. Because the guy gets up here, and then a year later, he's down there again. It happened with The Miz. You know, it happened with Wade Barrett. It's happened with so many damn superstars. It's getting to the point of insanity, in my opinion. Bray Wyatt versus Goldust was a match that really did get my attention. The battle of the two weird-ass characters, or Goldust formerly the weird-ass character. He's not as weird-ass as he was back in the Attitude Era, for example. But, you know, as for the match itself, it was pretty decent between these two. I was enjoying the action. You had the Wyatt family attack Cody Rhodes on the outside, and that allowed Bray Wyatt to get the win on Goldust. You know, as Bray Wyatt has definitely got a match going into Elimination Chamber, he definitely should be going over here. And, you know, the Rose Brothers are kind of sort of cast aside for a Shield promo. You know, tag team champions 1 minute, cast aside for storyline purposes the next minute. I don't know. As for when they're going to... Are they going to get their rematch at Elimination Chamber? You would think they would. I mean, they've lost... I mean, they lost in that cage match, but you would think that the tag team championships will be defended at Elimination Chamber. So you'd think that they would get their rematch then, I imagine. As for Cody Rhodes' moonsault on Raw from the top of the cage... you would think that I would be a massive fan of this, and I'd be like, what a spot. Now, at the time, I legitimately marked out for this. I thought this was awesome. But once again, I have to echo Schleg Daddy on this one. It did seem kind of reckless, especially due to the fact that it does look like he is labouring some kind of injury due to it. I mean, if this was on a pay-per-view, fair enough. But it was on Raw, and I understand it was a big match, and it wasn't even the main event. And I don't really think this spot necessarily needed to be there. So, a little bit reckless in my opinion, and he's got an injury because of it, and that could affect him going into WrestleMania. So it's these silly little things sometimes. So our main event on SmackDown this week was Randy Orton versus Christian, and I didn't watch this. I just didn't care. I've seen this match way too many times now, and I pretty much knew what was going to happen. You know, let me guess. I didn't really watch the match. I did watch the finish, but before the match even started, I was thinking to myself, yeah, it's going to be probably 10 minutes of pretty good wrestling, and then we're going to have the same old finish where Christian kicks Randy Orton out of the corner, and then Christian jumps off the top rope into an RKO. Was that how it finished? Exactly. So what's the point of me watching the match when I know exactly how it's going to finish? I pretty much know what to expect from it because I've seen it so many damn times now. So I didn't watch this main event. I really didn't. And another main event I won't be watching will be the one on Raw between Randy Orton and John Cena. Don't worry. You know, they're giving us Randy Orton versus Christian on SmackDown, but on Raw, we're going to be getting the epic main event. Even though the crowd completely pwned on the match at Royal Rumble, goes to show that your voice really doesn't matter. You can pone on a match as much as you want, but if it involves Orton and John Cena, they will still eventually have a match down the line, and this time it only took them a couple of weeks, and it's going to be main eventing Raw this week, so yeah, this probably is a good time not to watch Raw Deluxe, man. I doubt I'll be watching Raw anyway. Most times I watch Raw, I watch it in the background while I'm playing FIFA 14 or something. This will probably be another one of those episodes. You know, WWE never really seem to learn from their mistakes, do they? They had Daniel Bryan go over Randy Orton, and then he's getting chokeslammed by Kane. It's like, you throw the fans a bone, and then you kind of say, oh no, this is the way things are going to be done. Good work, WWE. Way to piss off your fans. But anyway, as for this week's edition of Smackdown, it was alright. It wasn't that bad. I mean, I quite enjoyed seeing Bray Wyatt versus Goldust. I quite enjoyed seeing Antonio Cesaro versus Daniel Bryan. Titus O'Neil entertained me this week. Yeah, we got to see Daniel Bryan in the opening segment and the Yahoo main event. And, you know, I guess it was a pretty decent show in all, even though it's still a little bit lackluster in my opinion. Especially when the WWE Network is, you know, a couple of weeks away now, and the WrestleMania is in a matter of months, or, you know, about 6 weeks or so, or 8 weeks, I must say. And it's, at the moment, WWE just feels, It's kind of how it feels to me. It's like WrestleMania's coming up, but WWE don't seem to be putting a lot of effort into their shows anymore. Just doesn't really seem that way to me. But anyway, you leave me your comments in the comment section below. I've been Mr. Park, and I'll be here same time next week. Make sure you check out the NXT review tomorrow, where I'll have a couple of thoughts on a segment involving Raw, involving a certain Australian dancer. You get to see that on NXT, so see you later then. Bye.